Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our first impressions of the brand new album from Humanity's Last Breath titled Välde. I hope Välde is how you pronounce it, I'm not quite sure, but either way, this is our first time checking out a Humanity's Last Breath album. Now we've checked out a couple of the singles from this album. We checked out Earthless, right?
Earthless and Glutton.
Glutton, yep.
Not in that order.
Not in that order.
We started with Glutton. Neither of us liked it, and neither of us liked the video either. We reacted to both these songs.
Yeah.
And then you guys told us check out either, I think, Abyssal or Earthless. We decided Earthless.
Yep.
And I thought that song was a lot better. The video was amazing.
Yeah, it was
awesome,
cool.
Awesome video.
Really cool video.
But the song was a big step up for me, but I do know you had a little bit of gripes with it.
I still liked it more than Glutton, I did. But yeah, there's something about the rhythmic patterns of both the songs that I heard so far. I'm hearing from people that a lot of the songs on this album have this issue where the rhythmic patterns are very kind of disjointed.
Yeah,
So,
I was looking for the
know.
word back in our Earthless reaction, and the word is syncopated.
Very syncopated.
I had that brain fart back then, but yeah, I'm noticing that trend from this band, a lot of syncopated rhythms here.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious if that's going to be used in a creative way that is fresh, or perhaps with this album it might kind of get stale as it goes along, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I enjoy syncopation when it's done in kind of, bits. But when everything's really heavily syncopated, I have a hard time following along with it sometimes. So we're gonna see. We're gonna listen to Välde for the first time in its entirety, and we'll be back to give you guys our first impressions, so stay put. All right, guys, we're back. We just listened to Välde in its entirety. I'm gonna hand the floor to you. You can start this one off.
All right, well, Välde. I guess I'll just kind of say my general thoughts. I was not that impressed with this album, unfortunately. And here's why. So a lot of you mentioned, okay, yeah, it's kind of a theme throughout the album, a lot of kind of syncopated, breaks or whatever. And yeah, we certainly found that, but I feel like it was a little bit to a fault in the sense that there wasn't really any contour on this album.
Yeah.
Usually an album's gonna, have some strong crazy points or maybe some calmer points and what have you, but a lot of these songs ended up sounding like the same thing.
Which makes it sound like it's flatlined.
It kind of is. There's only one moment that I actually really felt like the tone and the vibe of the album changed, and that was in the last track, Vittring, because it was a lot slower, a lot more brooding. My only issue with that song, though, I liked that song actually quite a bit, but my only issue is that it kind of drags on as just kind of one thing over and over. Not much really happens in that song, but I guess part of why I liked it is because it was a different vibe from most of the other tracks. So a good example of, why things kind of sounding like its own thing, and I remember you mentioned this as we were listening, like, when we, listened to Descent and then Spectre, which are tracks 4 and 5, you said, like, you could copy and paste sections of each of those two songs and just mix them up and nothing would change.
You wouldn't notice the difference.
Yeah, like, the grooves are good. The talent is great. The growls sound good. The drumming is awesome on this album. This drummer had a field day. Tons of crazy fills.
Yeah.
Lots of awesome double kick work. Just this guy, super strong player.
Right.
But guitar really didn't get that much going on. There were a few neat riffs, and in my higher rated songs, those are where the riffs were.
Yeah.
I guess I'll talk about my highest rated is actually track 6, Dehumanize, which starts with a breakdown, which is cool, and I really like the groove. There's a point where this groove gets slower, and they do that a few times on this album, not exactly the same way they do it on this track, and it still feels good when they do it on this track. Like, I feel like this is a really well-rounded track, and that's probably why it's my highest rated song.
Yeah, Dehumanize was actually my highest rated track as well, and I think it's because it is one of the tracks where they did do a few things that felt kind of new and fresh. Like, they're playing a groove at one point and they drop the tempo slightly, then they drop it slightly again.
Yeah,
it's like a double tempo drop. But it doesn't sound just like a typical breakdown slowdown. It's during like a groove section, so it sounds kind of cool.
And it's kind of out of nowhere. It's just like, oh, they're slowing down. What?
Yeah.
And they play it the same way.
So the song starts off though, but it starts off a little disappointing because it's got a lot of the songs have these constant ambient noises throughout the whole thing that was really starting to annoy me. This song starts off like that, but then it doesn't go away, but it gets better because when the music kicks in, the snare picks up. The snare has this really cool effect on it. It almost sounds like there's a gang yell with the snare sound. There was almost like a crowd cheer or something like that. I was noticing it was a very interesting effect. I wrote it down. I didn't know how to describe it, but yeah, the song definitely it gets up in tempo first, rides some really cool grooves. It spoke to me more than all the other tracks.
Mm-hmm. Two other songs that I really liked were Earthless. I still enjoyed that track. I liked the syncopated section in it. There was a really cool jam near the end that I liked a lot. Like overall, like that, it was just an enjoyable song. And you know, one thing that I feel like a lot of people when they listen to not only this album, this kind of music, they get a little bit, you know, kind of turned off by how disfigured the rhythms sound. But one thing that is very prevalent on this album and a lot with this kind of music, what you could call gent, is that the drummer is holding you there. It's not like it's completely open and it's like, what the heck's going on? Like, there's a grounding there. You're gonna hear, you know, just like that, the right hand on the cymbal constantly bringing you back. And one thing that was done actually in the last track, Vitring, that I actually liked a lot is that was done, but with the left hand on the snare drum. And that kind of caught me by surprise because I'm really used to hearing, you know, this one hand on the China cymbal or whatever, this giant dark crash. But no, he does it on the snare drum, and I thought that, like, you know, was interesting. I haven't really seen anyone do it like that before.
As interesting as that is, he only does it for one or two sections, which is the problem.
Yeah, it's like a little bit near the end, then he stops doing it, and then he starts doing it again.
Yeah.
I also really liked Futility, which is the track right before that, and I think it's because there were good grooves, and it was not structured the same way as a good chunk of the other tracks.
Yes.
I feel like this song was kind of a little bit more straightforward. The guitar riff was a lot more melodic than the kind of chugs of the other songs.
Yeah, melody is almost non-existent throughout a lot of this album. There's just, it's extremely rhythm-based, which is probably fine to a lot of people, but it really lacks a lot of melody. Just want to point out Futility was my second highest rated song for similar reasons. Very good grooves. It's one of the more coherent songs on the album. It doesn't feel as disjunct and broken up as a lot of the other songs, even though it does have parts like that. It's a little more well put together. It has a lot more contour to it as an individual track. So I agree with you on both your highest rated tracks. Dehumanize and Futility are definitely mine as well, so we're on the same page there for sure.
Yeah, another thing I want to mention is, you know, the disjunct nature of this album is not really as much in the syncopated sections, and while yes, that can be like rhythmically complex, I feel like one of the issues comes with the form of a lot of these songs, because as I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned that you mentioned, you can kind of copy and paste a lot of sections. That a lot of these songs kind of start with an idea, then it kind of just does whatever, and then it'll come back to that idea in the end. But what happens in the middle of the song, you could swap out with a bunch of different songs. Like, there's a lot of lack of coherency in that sense from a form perspective.
Yeah, to put it in simpler terms, a lot of it just sounds the same. You could just take one section from one song and one section from another song, flip them, and they both still sound like the same songs that they were. But you know what? This is one of those albums that you can't really just give a full judgment on a first listen. Like, there's so much going on. There's a lot going on. They pack a lot of stuff in there. There's constant noise happening.
Oh yeah. I don't think there's many moments of just silence, really.
Barely anything. And that's what I even said during the session. Like, halfway through, I was like, they need to give this album time to breathe, because they just don't. It's just, there's a wall of noise that's constantly happening. It's usually this ambient siren-like thing that's going on, and I don't know if it's a guitar with an effect or some sort of, like, I called it arpeggio, but you said that wasn't the correct term, but that's the closest I can think. But that I hear in a lot of the songs, or it could be synth, I'm not sure, but it's too much. It's just too much on a first listen, and I can't picture myself throughout the week listening to the album getting used to that or starting to enjoy it. I could be wrong, but I feel like it's just way too much.
I think one thing, like, this is, I think, a perfect example of an album that you really need to spend time with if it doesn't grab you at first, because a lot of these songs kind of sound the same right now to us. We've only heard them once.
Right.
So, you know, a week from now, like, we'll have heard it tons of times, so that we can get more used to how the songs sound individually, and maybe it won't, you know, seem that way to us when we review the album.
Exactly. So we're gonna listen to the album for the entire week as much as we possibly can, and we're gonna try to learn the songs and get familiar with it so we can come back next week and give you guys a full and final review of Välde. That's it for this video, guys. So like it if you liked it, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. Be sure to check out Slay Thy Name. Links in the description below. We have a coupon code 2TOE TAGS for 15% off. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
I'll see you guys on the next one.